Hey everybody, Nathan Elson here, and welcome back to another episode of How I Got the Shot. Now I'm super excited for this video because this is one of my favorite set of images that I've shot over the past year. And when I put these images up on Instagram, you guys were asking all over the place if I could please add this to my How I Got the Shot series. So with that being said, this is the type of image that we're creating today. Let's just get into it. Here we are in the studio and I'm running a simple 2-light setup. My key light is an AD600 Pro with the Strobe Pro optical snoot attached. The lens I am using on the optical snoot is the Sigma Art 50mm f1.4, and the gobo inserted into the snoot is the slit gobo, which looks like this. This key light is set to half power, which is metered at f5.6 at 1/200th of a second at ISO 200. Now, being that we want our camera to mimic our key light in order to obtain a proper exposure, this means that my camera settings will also be f5.6 at 1/200th of a second at ISO 200. My fill light is another AD600 Pro, and the modifier I'm using is the large Profoto Deep umbrella with the diffusion panel attached. This light is positioned high and behind the key light and is metered at f1.4 at 1/200th of a second at ISO 200, which means that it is set to be 3 stops less power than my key light. By placing this fill light further back like this, it allows the fill light to be a nice, even throw of light, which is then adding fill light into the shadow areas of the image, which would otherwise fall into complete darkness, and thus giving me more of that subtle detail in the floor and the wall which would otherwise be lost. The camera I'm shooting on is the Nikon D800 with the Sigma Art 85mm f1.4 lens, and it is tethered into Capture One Pro. So now that we've seen the behind the scenes of this shoot, I'll show you how I convert this image to black and white in Capture One Pro. All right, so here we are in Capture One, and I just wanted to take you through a few of the images that we created on this shoot. Now, as you can see here, Liz, she moves incredibly well. She makes my life so much easier. But I just wanted to talk to you quickly about the key light and the fill light that I was referring to in the behind the scenes of the actual shoot itself. Now, the key light is this slit of light here. And so when I talk about the fill light and bringing in more detail into the shadow areas, what I'm talking about is the wall here, the corner of the wall down here on the floor. Without that fill light, all of this area would fall into complete black. And we would lose all of that detail, all of that shape, all of that depth in the image. So when I add fill light, all I'm really trying to do is just bring a little bit of that detail back, but still keep the shaping of the key light so that we get, that sort of that open door cracked look type thing. So I just wanted to touch really quick on the differences between the key light and the fill light and what I was meaning when I was talking about them in the video when we were in the studio there. So with that being said, again, here are a few of the images. These are straight out of camera. If you guys want to see more of the edited images, follow me on Instagram. I will link it right here. And I'm just going to select one here that we're going to edit. I really like this one, but I also really like this. I think I'm gonna go with this one. I just really like the way she's elongated. It gives us lots to work with. So we're gonna go here. Now the first thing I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna come up into my color tab and I'm just gonna enable black and white. Now from there, I'm just gonna come into my curves and I'm just going to go into my Luma range here and I'm just going to add just, simple little S curve there. Now, from there, that's essentially, basic black and white conversion, but we need to do some fine tuning to this. Number one, I want to bring a little bit of that shadow detail back. So we're going to bump up our shadows a touch here. That looks great. And then I'm also going to add some clarity. Usually with my black and white work, when it's a little bit high contrast like this, I like to work kind of in the 25 to 35 range. So I think we'll add 29 there. Yeah, that looks great. It just brings in more detail in between the highlights and the shadows, just sharpens things up a little bit. Now I'm gonna come back into my color tab here, and with this skin tone, the red will essentially affect just the skin tone in terms of bringing it down. It makes it darker, bringing it up makes it lighter. And then in our yellows, that's where we start getting a little bit more some of the skin tone, but a little bit more of the environment, the daylight balance light that's hitting the walls and stuff like that. So if we want to open that up a little bit, we can bring that up a touch and then We'll bring our skin tones down just a little. Yeah, nothing too dramatic. That looks fantastic, just like that. And what I'm actually going to do here is I'm just going to bump up the shadows a touch just to bring a little bit more detail in. And then I'm going to add a layer. And I'm going to come up to my radial filter here, which is essentially my favorite tool in all of either Capture One or Lightroom. I'm just going to feather this in so that the fall off is nice and soft. And I'm just going to dial that in just a touch. There we go. And as you can see, if I toggle this on and off, it just focuses the light a little bit more onto Liz here. So from there, that actually looks pretty great. If you're losing detail in your outfits and stuff like that, you can also come in, make sure that you got your background selected, and the magenta will usually adjust onto darker clothing, that kind of thing. So if I wanted to add just a little bit more light into the bralette, that kind of thing, I can bump up my magenta, bring it down, bring it up. Yeah, let's leave it right about there. That looks fantastic. So if I just show you guys a before and after here, this is the before, straight out of camera. We bring this across. This is the after. A lot more of that kind of film noir, black and white, just kind of contrasty look. And yeah, from a conversion aspect, that looks fantastic. What we can do now is we can actually copy this and apply it to all the other images because they are all very similarly posed. And we don't have anything, we're not going into the eyes and doing any paintbrushes or anything like that. So from there, now we can see, if I come in here, these are some of the black and white conversions. Again, looks fantastic. We're gonna bring this one into Photoshop and do just kind of a final retouch on it. So with that, let's jump into Photoshop and I'll show you how I handle that process. All right, so here we are in Photoshop. And the first thing I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna grab my healing brush and I'm just gonna come through and I'm gonna get rid of a few of the things on the wall, that kind of stuff, outlets, some of the bang. We're gonna start that over. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop, and the first thing I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna come over, I'm gonna grab my healing brush. I'm just gonna bring this full size, and we're just gonna get rid of a few things in this image, like this outlet here. Just gonna paint that away. Some of the nicks in the wall. I don't wanna get rid of all of it, because I do like a little bit of that kind of industrial feel to it, but there's a few different kind of black marks and stuff like that that don't necessarily need to be there. Nope. Awesome. And then so once I've got that cleaned up, all I'm really gonna do here is there's just a couple of little areas with this harder light that will kind of show little skin variances, that kind of thing. So we're just going to kind of paint some of those away. The model does have fantastic skin, so there isn't a whole lot of work to do here. There we go. Again, just a couple of areas on the arms. And I always do find that with legs and stuff like that, you do end up getting a lot more skin variances just because obviously, you know, there's all the blood vessels going through the legs and stuff like that. But I'll show you how we take care of that in just a second. Awesome. Okay. That is looking Great. Okay, now, so what I'm gonna do from here is I'm gonna come over and I'm just going to select my dodge and burn brush here. So this is completely free. I will link it down in the description below, but essentially all you need to do is run this action. You get a burn layer and a dodge layer. Come over, you select your brush, you select your white color because you're painting away the black. You come up to your flow, and I like to set it around 5%. And you always wanna make sure that your brush is set to hardness of 0, because you wanna really just kind of just paint in there a little bit away without adding any hard lines or anything like that. So once I get my dodge selected here, I can come in here and I can start painting away just a few of these areas where the shadows just need to be blended a little bit better. And I'll click a before and an after here real quick just to show you what I'm doing, because it is hard to see as you're doing it. It's one of those things where clicking it on and off really just helps to show you what it is that you're doing, because when you're painting it away this slowly so that you have more control, it can be hard to see what you're doing as you go. So even just right there, if I turn this off, you can see here just in little areas of the forehead, in the cheek when I turn it back on. So off, on, off, on. It just blends everything so that you get really nice transitions from your highlights to your shadows. So what we're gonna do here is just blend this a little bit better. That's good. Okay. Once we have that, again, I'll just do a before and an after. Before and after, as you can see, it's just smoothing everything out just a touch so that it has just a little bit more of that high quality feel. And again, just some of the dark spots on the arms here. I'm just gonna come in here, paint those away. Again, if I turn this off and on, you can see how areas here on her arm are starting to, so off and on, just kind of blend in better. Here. It's just easy to kind of go through nice and full size here and just paint away a few of these areas. You don't want to paint away any of the definition, any of the toning of your subjects. You want to make sure you keep all of that. So just be conscious of the areas that you are blending to make sure you're not getting rid of the shape of your image, because we don't want to get rid of the shape of anything. We just want to smooth things out a touch. And again, if I turn that off and on, you can see I'm just smoothing things out a little bit here. And again, same idea. If we come in here, I won't go through this whole image and do this, mostly because I don't want to spend the next 15 minutes of your time going through and adding this dodge and burn effect to make sure everything gets nice and smooth, but I'll give you a good idea of what the process looks like. And it is worth it to go through and do this to your images. It makes them look a lot more realistic than adding, just like a softening filter or something like that can sometimes blend skin to the point of looking plasticky, that kind of thing. We don't want that. It doesn't, or at least I don't want that in terms of my own preference. If you're into plastic skin, you do you. I'm not here to tell you what you should and should not do. Just what I like to do. So, just to show you guys here, I won't spend too much more time on the legs here, but just to show you real quick what some of these dodging and burning options look like. So if I turn this off and on, you can see just a lot of these areas are starting to smooth in and just blend in with the skin tones a little bit better. So once we've gone through and done this kind of a spot dodge and burn, if you will. Once we finish up with that, we're gonna go through and we're gonna do a global dodge and burn, which is essentially just a wider spread of the dodge and burn action in order to just bring out a little bit more shaping and stuff like that to highlight the muscle definition and the cheekbones and everything like that. So I'll just finish this up here quick. There we go. And again, I'll just zoom out a touch here just so you can kind of see a before and after on the legs. So before and after. And as you can see, a lot of these areas where there's just these little skin variations, they're starting to go away. So what I would normally do is go through that for the next, like I said, 10 or 15 minutes, just kind of go through, smooth everything out. But what I want to show you guys here is if we come in and we've got, you know, our full size image, and we come in and we do essentially a global dodge and burn. So what I'll do here is I'll come in with my dodge selected, and I'm just going to highlight some of these shadow areas. Bring in some detail around the lips. There we go. And then I'll come in with my dodge. I'll just throw a little bit more light into the eyes and kind of a wider throw of light into the cheekbones here. Coming up the bridge of the nose and onto the forehead, onto the lips, and chin. And if we turn this off and on, you can see it's not changing the shape of the image, it's just giving it a little bit more punch, a little bit more contrast, a little bit more of you know, shaping to everything. And that's all we really want to do. We want to highlight the shaping. We don't want to essentially change it too much. And so if I come down here and I come down my burn and I just add a little bit more detail into the muscle tone. And then I come with my dodge here. And again, just hit on some of these highlight areas. Nice. If you turn this off and on, you can see it's just starting to add just a little bit more definition to everything. So if I turn this off and on, it adds more pop. So with that, that's all we really need to do to this image. I'll show you guys a before and an after of what this image looked like from straight out of camera to the final product. And that's all we need to do to this image. And so with that, that wraps another episode of How I Got the Shot. Now, hopefully you guys picked up a few things from this that you can use in your shoots going forward. If you have any questions about anything, use the comments box down below. That's what it's there for. If you did like this video, of course, please give it a thumbs up. And with that, as always, I will talk to you guys again very, very soon. Cheers.